Both the African Union, the Economic Community of West African States, and the United Nations issued a joint statement saying that there needs to be a peaceful transition of power, that Yahya Jammeh must step down in accordance with the country's own laws. And secondly, yesterday, the United Nations Security Council unanimously declared the same, all 15 member states, which is very important. So the world is watching, and I think that's very important on a situation like this, where in the past, a lot of these crimes, a lot of violence, and a lot of human rights abuses committed by Jammeh and the regime have gone unnoticed. And that's very different this time around, and I think that's incredibly important.
Mutala Toure, one more question on Jammeh and the Gambia before we widen our discussion. How did he come to lose his grip on power? I mean, did the opposition in the Gambia outsmart him, or did his jailing of the opposition leader Ousainou Darboe galvanize people against him? What happened?
Yeah, I think there are several contributing factors to it. First of all, I think he was too overconfident that he has the support of the Gambia. And then before the election, he made several changes that have now come to haunt him. Like he changed the electoral laws, barring Ousainou Darboe from running for the presidency. He set the age at 65. So that's one of the factors why Barrow came in. And then as well, he changed the law to have, instead of having two-round voting, he made it one simple majority. So if there had been a second round of voting, then probably he would have had the chance of allying with Mama Kandeh, who came third. He's a former member of the APRC, so probably he would have won. So all these factors, and then with the opposition, as well as the Gambian people, they've had enough of Yahya Jammeh excess, and as well as human rights violation, throwing people in jail. So they were really looking forward to change. So all these contributing factors, he himself, with changing, tinkering with the constitution as well as the electoral laws, that's brought his end.
Well, following the end of the so-called Cold War, democracy was thought to be flourishing across Africa. Now, though, international observers fear that democracy has stalled or is in fact being reversed. A number of authoritarian leaders across Africa hold an iron grip on power. Many are accused of repressing the opposition, of amending laws to extend their rule, and overseeing rubber stamp elections. At least 16 African nations held elections this year. The transfer of power hasn't always been smooth or always led to representative governments. Edgar Lungu was re-elected president in Zambia in August in a poll marred by harassment of the opposition, claims of vote rigging, and the closure of an independent newspaper. Disputes, too, in Gabon following the election there in September. The opposition accused the Constitutional Court of a miscarriage of justice for upholding the victory of President Ali Bongo. And President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda extended his 30-year rule earlier this year in an election which international observers condemned as a sham. Jeffrey Smith, I mean, what does it take to make a positive political transition in Africa possible?
Well, I think that's one of the tragic outcomes of the Gambia. The election result there that was announced on December 2nd, in which it was announced that now President-elect Adama Barrow had ousted one of the continent's longest-serving dictators. It provided hope not only to Gambians but people across the region and across sub-Saharan Africa. Now with this reversal, again, it puts into flux the state of democracy in the region and dashes the hopes of millions across the region. I think if you look more broadly, one of the really interesting aspects in sub-Saharan Africa is the fact that poll after poll shows that citizens across the continent prefer electoral democracy over the alternatives. What is missing, however, is the supply of democracy. So the demand is increasingly high, the hopes and aspirations of people remain high, but the supply of democracy remains woefully low. If you look at Freedom House studies, for instance, only 12% of citizens in sub-Saharan Africa live in a country in which democratic ideals, civil liberties, and political rights are actually protected in practice, which is very concerning. And I think looking at West Africa in particular, in which Gambia is situated, there has been tremendous advancements, in my opinion, in terms of advancing democracy. We saw what happened in Ghana just just this week with the opposition candidate ousting the incumbent president, and we know there'll be a peaceful transfer of power there. So in West Africa, specifically, tremendous advancements being made, and again, Gambia is making headlines for all of the wrong reasons, and is really a veritable black eye on a region otherwise doing very well.
Mutala Toure, we talked about the UN Security Council, the African Union and ECOWAS. The UN Security Council says Jammeh must hand over power without conditional delay. The African Union described his statement as null and void. Are the AU or ECOWAS competent bodies when it comes to the democratic transfer of power in Africa?
ECOWAS, we've seen increasingly making some very strong progress in terms of pushing for stable government and democratic transition. We saw what they did in Mali in 2012 when there was a coup. They stepped in, then prevailed on the military to hand over to a civilian-led transition. And the military, they didn't even stay for a month. We saw the same thing in Burkina Faso last year when the military wanted to disrupt the peaceful transition. They stepped in as well in Guinea-Bissau. So they've had this experience. And I think with that, one can say, arguably, that the military regime in West Africa, their days are numbered. In the sense that you can stage a coup, but you won't be allowed to stay in power. I think that's a tremendous progress from the part of ECOWAS. So now ECOWAS, they do have this experience. They have leverage. They have people that can get to Yahya Jammeh. One of these strong men, I think, it's former president of Nigeria. That's Olusegun Obasanjo. He has some levers over Yahya Jammeh. He's some of these people that should be brought in and put this pressure on Yahya Jammeh from now to at the end of December or to, January, so that he can see a reason to hand over power peacefully.
Jeffrey Smith, the average age of Gambia's population is 20. Many people there have known no other leader. I mean, and that demographic is repeated right across West Africa and other parts of the continent. You say demand for democracy is high. To what extent may we see a sort of African version of the Arab Spring, with people demanding democracy, proper, true democracy?
Yeah, I think certainly, as we were talking about previously, the demand for democracy continues to rise. And I think the Arab Spring analogy is a bit overplayed here. I think there's certainly different social and cultural dynamics at play in sub-Saharan Africa that were otherwise evident in North Africa and parts of the Middle East. But one of the concerns here, and pivoting back to Gambia a bit, is the rising tension and the rising frustrations of people who, in Gambia, for instance, went out and stood in line and bravely voted out one of the continent's and arguably one of the world's most repressive dictators. They literally put their lives on the line to do this. And now that has been taken away, social tensions will certainly increase. And one of the big fears there, too, is that Jammeh, over the past 22 years, has become an expert at dividing people. He has divided people certainly along political lines, along ethnic lines. For instance, before the elections, he threatened to bury the opposition 9 feet deep. Those were his own words. He threatened to kill the Mandinka ethnic group, which makes up about 40% of Gambia's population, threatening to kill them like vermin. He called them ants. So sort of conjuring this very, very horrible rhetoric that we saw in the early 1990s in Rwanda before the genocide happened there. And I'm not saying a genocide is imminent in the Gambia, but these are certainly big concerns that are not only a concern for Gambia and for the region, but certainly for the United States and other vested shareholders in Gambia's future.
Gentlemen, there we must end it. Many thanks indeed for being with us, Jeffrey Smith and Mutala Toure. And thank you, as always, for watching. Don't forget you can see the programme again anytime just by going to aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, join us at our Facebook page, facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter at AJ Inside Story. From me, Adrian Finnegan, and the whole team here in Doha, thanks for watching.
Yes,
bye for now.
If I'm not mistaken, we just got 6 days before Yahya Jammeh stepped down. And I'm sure he's going to have grow some balls and step down for... Now, to give peace and democracy a chance, as Gambia has decided. You're listening to Regular FM. Badingula Kamu Regular FM Lamoy, Talan, Soul, Tamita, Militan, Saban, Killing, Beat, Bawkaro, Kili, Tangan, Fula, January, Samo, 2017.
Tune in and don't stop.
Yahya Jammeh Punditalane, Grupo Arabo.
The financial position.
Grupo Talato Suto, Futale, Akala Kumakalanta Molfo, Fonga Amnesty, a guarantee of fight. Very electorates of the Gambia. Will decide La Munebekela Jamela and the Munebekela Gambia from the 19th of January 2017. So at a Boato Sitale Fibo, Ria Jamebo, and the Kalanya Dinya Fibo, let's support us all before one by one. Sai Mol from Bukala Moya, Kalafile Puka attention sick. He's an attention seeker. He is left on his own. Jammeh is abandoned. Jammeh is become a loner. Yes.
Of the people and impunity and decentralized authority and power. It is my fervent belief and conviction that we can bring about change for a better Gambia by directing our efforts and political capital towards one end, the singular pragmatic goal of ushering in a new and third republic that brings progress.
That's the beautiful voice of Dr. Aissatou Toure, and it's mixed by our Regular FM. Yes? If you want a copy of this tune, let us know. We'll send it to you for free. Yes, we send it to Her Excellency Honorable Dr. Aissatou Toure already. We dubbed this on Amu Regular FM. Say, give it love to Amu Regular FM. Big respect goes out to Mr. Cham, Alhaji Cham. Yes? Batman, big up yourself. Not forgetting Mr. Bai, Mr. Sambu across London City. Not forgetting all our listeners across the globe. Those in France, Germany, United States, United Kingdom, Sweden, Switzerland, Denmark, France, Norway, Finland, China, India, Puerto Rico. Big up yourself. Keep it locked up, Regular FM.
Strategies and tactics must be flexible enough to make progress possible, especially under the difficult political conditions we currently face. Everything I learned in my years of work with the women, men, and the youth of this country and in academia has convinced me that Gambians need a president that will serve them, not one that they should serve, not one that looks down on them, but a president who will uphold the constitution, the rule of law, and restore good governance. A government that will bring economic prosperity to Gambians. People who want more say in the decisions that affect their lives. The old command and control and control politics, doing things to and for people but never with them, has not and will not work. True democracy does not mean voting every 5 years. True democracy requires the active participation of all citizens in planning the development programs and activities for their localities, working with their wards, village development committees, and other development committees, allowing people affected to take leadership in advancing the best interests based on the common good. Together we can stop further degeneration of our beloved country and contribute to give it a new lease of life where hope, love, and appreciation of each other, respect for fundamental freedom, dignity of the person, rule of law, and peace will thrive in an entity that is nothing other than Gambia. Ensuring that nobody is victimized on the basis of tribe, religion, or political affiliation. For this is the true nature of the Gambian people. Gambians face a dire situation with the APRC regime, and every Gambian has a story to tell. But I urge you to muster courage and strength so that we can make the Gambia better. I seek your support in our quest to bring the Gambia out of isolation, to build bridges and linkages